Welcome to Shri Shri Pad Baba VMST lecture series on Srimad Bhagwad Geeta. Today we shall be face to face with the format, features and values of mathematics as speaking language along content carriers format. In this universe, the content is being carried. Carriers are the transcendental carriers. These transcendental carriers carry the content, and this content is of five folds as Panch Mahabhut. So Prithvi is the first Mahabhut. Prithvi is the first manifold of the content which we in our wish are taking it as three space content or physical matter as we are acquainted with. The next phase is of this content as apa, water, and it is a four space content. At first phase, the carriers transform the earth element, the solids, physical matter, into water, a liquefied state. This is the initial format of linear order, three space solids, physical content being transformed as spatial order, four space, a liquefied state, a reach from the first Mahabhut, Prithvi, to the second Mahabhut. It is the first phase and stage, and it is this phase and stage which is being taken through the subsequent phases and stages. The first phase and stage is that solid, a three space linear order, our solids, physical matter, being transformed into a four space spatial order, means into the liquefied state, or in popular language it can be said that it is to be converted into water. So the transition is from three space to four space. It is from linear order to a spatial order. It is a reach from earth to water, and it is this phase and stage, it is this reach which is made for a flow, for being carried, and the carriers carry earth by making it a liquid. The solids, linear order, our physical matter, is firstly transformed into a liquids, a spatial order, and then it is carried through the subsequent stages. There are Panch Mahabhut, earth, water, fire, air, and space. This reach is of five phases and stages. The content is of five folds. First fold is as earth, second fold is as water, third fold is as fire, fourth fold is as air, and fifth fold is as a space. Therefore, the transcendental carriers, content carriers, are working it out a format for carrying this content by taking it a first phase and stage of transformation of the solids into the liquids. Once the earth is made in a water state, then this flow is sequentially taken like value 1 to value 2, then value 2 to value 3, value 3 to value 4, value 4 to value 5. So these are quadruple phases and stages of a reach. Now it is a reach from linear order to a spatial order, then spatial order to a solid order to a creative order to a transcendental order. As ultimately the transformation is into a transcendental order, as such the carriers, the content carriers, are designated as transcendental carriers. The translation for it is Ativahaka. Carriers are Vahakas and Ativahakas are the transcendental carriers. The Vedic systems are settling the content carriers format as of transcendental carriers format, and for it the quadruple phases and stages of transition are happening. First is from linear order to a spatial order. It is from earth to water, from solids to liquids. The next stage is from spatial order to a solid order. It is a reach from water to a fire. Next stage is from fire to air, and finally it is from air to a space, Akash Tat. Now these quadruple phases of the content carriers as transcendental carriers or the formulation Paranavaha. We know Om is the soul syllable and Tasya Vachka, its synonym is Paranava. Let us be face to face with the script form of this formulation. See that if it is filled with water, means the liquefied solids, then we will be having a flow here. Then at the next stage, it is flow like this. At third stage is like radiation, then it is as connected particles. The first is like conduction, then is convention, then it is a radiation, and then ultimately it is of connected particles. These connected particles are in effect are the structured points, and structured points means these are filled with the structures. So these are filled with the content, and this content essentially to start with is as solids, then it goes as liquids, then as fires, then airs, and ultimately as space contents. Now the space is to be swept by and in terms of the connected particles. Vedic systems are settling the format of the content carriers as transcendental carriers by adopting the technique of having transition from solids to liquids, means from linear order to a spatial order, that is from the earth element to the water element. This initial phase and stage of transition is carried forward by the Ganita Sutras format of Ekadhiken Purve, one step more, and followed by Anurupe, the proportionate symmetry rule of Ganita Upsutra 1. The transition of the initial phase and stage from solids to liquids, from element earth to element water, from linear order to spatial order, is the reach which is further carried forward in terms of the mathematical rules of Ganita Sutra 1 and Ganita Upsutra 1. Ganita Sutra 1 is one more than before, and Ganita Upsutra 1 is proportionate symmetry, or in follow the form as it is framed. Therefore, the forms of the solids is transited and transformed into water, and this form is further of transition from water to fire, and from fire to air, and then from air to space content is the sequential transition and transformation. This format, with the availability of this format, then the transcendental content carriers format becomes of quadruple phases and stages, which are of the script forms as it is of the formulation Paranavaha, and this formulation we know is availing the letters with which are associated the transcendental code values, and as per these values, this formulation, as it is a setup of quadruple syllables, aksharas, and these get the values 7, 8, 8 and 13. From these values 7, 8, 8 and 13, we will reaching at the trans and the further values, but for the present we can see that the mathematics as a speaking language is along the content carriers of format. With these initial introductory features, we can see that the grammar, Sanskrit grammar, the Vedic grammar, as it is of the format that content in the form of a liquefied state is carried from one reservoir, one beaker, from one reservoir to another reservoir, and this transformation of this transcendental carrying of this liquid flow from first beaker, first reservoir to the second reservoir, as it is of these phases and stages which are ultimately taken as karta, apadan, and all those reaching these phases and stages along which the grammar is to be built. Then these vowels will be of the form as if there is a cube, there is a 3-space body, and this 3-space body is on a stable format, and this 3-space in the role of a dimension will ultimately making it hypercube 5 as of 4-fold manifestation layer of value 18, and the first vowel as such will be of 18 folds. These features are the features which will help us appreciate that the sadhakas fulfilled the intensity of virtue to be parallel to the mathematics, the format of the organization steps of mathematics as a speaking language along content carriers formats have to begin the Vedic way, the way the Vedic systems are successfully reaching at mathematics as a speaking language along content carriers formats. For it, the start point is the Devanagari alphabet format. As a first step, and we'll see ultimately that this will become the end reach step as well. We will be starting from the Vedic alphabet, and after exhaustive coverage of the entire format, we will be reaching back at the Devanagari alphabet itself. So Devanagari Varnamala, Devanagari alphabet is the starting point, and Devanagari alphabet is going to be the end reach of the Vedic systems, in terms of which mathematics is transiting and transforming as a speaking language along the content carriers of format. Sadhakas fulfilled the intensity efforts to chase this format, this mathematics, these values, these features, in terms of which the Vedic systems are successful to have mathematics as a speaking language along content carriers formats, shall begin with Devanagari alphabet, Devanagari Varnamala. And this Devanagari Varnamala is of its 42 letters other than the Yama letters. These 42 letters are settled, formatted for their values in terms of Maheshwara Sutras. Therefore, from Devanagari Varnamala, we shall reach at Maheshwara Sutras, or other way round, from Maheshwara Sutras, we shall reach at the transcendental code values accepted by the individual letters of Devanagari Varnamala. Starting with Devanagari Varnamala and having a reach at Maheshwara Sutras for its organization, or starting with Maheshwara Sutras and reaching at the transcendental code values associated, accepted, association by the individual letters. Therefore, we can have a simultaneous chase of Devanagari Varnamala in terms of Maheshwara Sutras, and Maheshwara Sutras features are to be chased in terms of the organization format of a Devanagari Varnamala. One may see that there are 14 Maheshwara Sutras, and these 14 Maheshwara Sutras are organizing these 42 letters of Devanagari alphabet. And in terms of this organization of 42 letters of Devanagari Varnamala as 14 Maheshwara Sutras, and we know that a raised to power 7 is equal to 14 b raised to power 6. There are 14 Maheshwara Sutras, and further we know that 14 into 3 is equal to 42, and value 42 is the synthesis value of the pair of transcendence ranges of spatial order. Therefore, the value 42, it takes us to 4 space, which is of a spatial order and is of a transcendental origin, and as such, within 4 space, there will be a reach up till its origin, which is a transcendental origin, and the spatial order as such will lead us to a pair of transcendence ranges, the synthesis value of which is going to be 42. Therefore, when we will be face to face with the format features and values of Devanagari alphabet with individual letters accepting their values as these are designated as transcendental code values as per the organization of these 42 letters as 14 Maheshwara Sutras, then we will be face to face with the creator's space. Creator's space is a fourth space which is of a spatial order with the transcendental origin. Therefore, the sadhakas fulfilled with the intensity of urge to be face to face with the format, features and values of a mathematics in terms of which mathematics is being successfully transited and transformed into a speaking language along the content carriers formats shall be face to face with the creators of space, a fourth space. Therefore, from the linear order 3 space, we have to transit to a spatial order 4 space. This means that if we want to be parallel to the format, features and values of the Vedic systems in terms of which the mathematics is transiting and transforming as a speaking language along the content carriers formats, then we have to transit from linear order 3 space to a spatial order 4 space. Now it is this transition from linear order 3 space to spatial order 4 space. This transition in fact is the foundational transition. This is a foundational reservoir of the values of the Vedic systems being availed to transform mathematics as a speaking language. This means the earth element is being approached in its liquefied state. Earth element is transforming into a water element. Linear order is being transformed into a spatial order. Once we are successful to transform linear order solids into a spatial order space, then we know that linear order is a 3 space setup. So linear order means a 3 linear dimensions frame setup. So the cubes, which are the representative regular bodies of 3 space, are the bodies which are framed within a 3-dimensional frame. Moment this 3-dimensional frame, linear order is transited and transformed into a spatial order, then we will be transiting into a 4 space. Now, because of the availability of the additional dimension, the 4th dimension for the solids, a 3-dimensional bodies, it will have a degree of freedom of motion. It is this degree of freedom of motion for the linear order solids within 4 space being of a spatial order. Therefore, the static state of the solids will transit and transform into the dynamic state solids. It is this reach for the static state solids as transition and transformation into a dynamic state solids which is the achievement, and it is this achievement which is being availed sequentially by the mathematics of Eka Adhikain Purvain and Ganita Upsutrama Anurupe. Therefore, from 1 by the rule we are reaching at 2, and then by the same and symmetrically from 2 we will be reaching at 3, from 3 we will reach at 4, from 4 we will reach at 5. It is this reach would mean that linear order 1 space and the role of dimension of a 3 space will take to spatial order 2 space in the dimension of a 4 space. Step ahead, there would be a solid order, and it is 3 space in the dimension of 5 space, 4 space as dimension of 6 space, and 5 space as dimension of 7 space, the ultimate unity state. It is going to be ultimately a reach from Sun, 6 space body, to a 7th space, a pole star. This feature of the mathematics of the Vedic systems being availed for transformation of mathematics as a speaking language along content carriers formats is inherently of inbuilt features and characteristics properly preserved and properly coded in the Devanagari alphabet itself, with every letter of Devanagari alphabet is associated a value, and these values are designated as transcendental code values, and parallel to these values as Yoga Nishtha taking to the Sankhya Nishtha and Sankhya Nishtha taking to the Yoga Nishtha, both being the complementary processing steps simultaneously available and being availed. And the Devanagari alphabet format, 42 letters organization, is having a organization carrying to the format for the Maheshwara Sutras, and Maheshwara Sutras carry to Devanagari alphabet with association of the values to them. This is the first step. In fact, it is the basic step. In terms of this basic step, with the comprehension of this basic step, we will be in a position to appreciate that now the Vedic mathematics is successfully, sequentially reaching at a content carrying process of our universe from its linear order, first Mahabhut, Earth, Prithvi Tattva, and from Prithvi Tattva to Akash Tattva. There are going to be the 5 phases and stages, but the transition as such leads us to a 4 gaps of the range of 5 points. Therefore, it is the gaps which are to be bridged. It is this process of bridging of the gaps which is the inherent technique of the Vedic systems. Vedic systems are at a first step have a sequential organization like the settlement of the points along the format of a line. Once this sequential arrangement of the format of line stands availed, then between the consecutive pair of points there happens a gap, and this gap is to be bridged. It is bridging of this gap between the pair of consecutive points which is the next challenge, which is accepted and is successfully completed by the Vedic systems. Therefore, the sadhakas have to appreciate that to be parallel to the Vedic systems, making mathematics as a speaking language, we have to have appreciation firstly of the arrangement for the points along a format of a line, and then the gaps between the pair of consecutive points is to be bridged. Now, before we proceed further as to how it is to be bridged, let us see that the text of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we know, is a scripture of 18 chapters, and this range of 18 chapters is of starting with first chapter as of 47 shlokas and reaching at the last chapter 18 as of 78 shlokas. Therefore, when these 18 points are transited and transformed along the circumference, then the last point will get superimposed in such a way that we will make it to be 19 points, though actually these are the 18 points. The last point at the end point, at the meeting point, the beginning and the end are getting at the same ment. Now we will knowing that 19 points are having 18 gaps. Now let us see these 19 points as such become of value 78, the last becoming first 78, then 47 to 72 and so on. Now see the gaps. The gap between 78 and 47 is value 31. The gap in 47 and 72 is 25. Here we are intentionally not taking care of the orientations, as we are going to be within a spatial order, from linear order to a spatial order, and the spatial order will be creating 4 space, and within 4 space we know 2 plus 2 is equal to 2 multiplied by 2. It is also equal to minus 2 multiplied by minus 2. Therefore the orientation here gets superimposed indistinguishably. As such, we have to take the absolute value of the difference between the consecutive values. Now here it will be 25, then 72 to 43, 29, and ultimately from 28 to 78 will be value 50. Let us count C. These values, the first gap value is 31, second is 25, summation value would be 56, and ultimately we were reaching at value 284. Now see, the value 284 is a value 1 more than 283, and see, the value 283 is the value of the total letters of the 16 Ganita Sutras. The text of Ganita Sutras, 16 Ganita Sutras, is a text of 283 letters, and here we are having 1 more than 283. That means the mathematics of Ganita Sutras, when reaches from 1 to 16, then it again starts afresh. It becomes a cyclic. Therefore, it starts giving a mathematics that from 16th sutra, let's again go to the first sutra, and this mathematics will start unfolding itself, the inner folds. And like that, we know Panchvritya, we know that we can 5 times work it out and see how the mathematics will be internally unfolding itself. However, for the present, we are just focusing upon that the gaps of the 18 chapters of shlokas are of the range of value 284, which is 1 more than 283, which is the value of the total letters of Ganita Sutras. Now see, if we are at the first formulation, Ekadhikain, the first formulation, Ekadhikain, of the first sutra, Ekadhikain Purve. Now see, this formulation, Ekadhikain, is a setup of as many as 5 aksharas, syllables. These are leading us to value 6, Ka Brahma, again 6, 9, 10 and 9. Now see here, here is the vowel 6, which will permit a trans of value 6 into 4 into 2 is 48, and then Ka Brahma 4, and this value is going to be off. We know it will give us value 5, means 20, then it is going to be 0, it is again is going to be value and 192, then it is going to 24, and the total value comes to 284. So the formulation Ekadhikain itself is leading to a trans of value 284, that is 1 more than these letters. As such, we shall have a pause here, and we shall be face to face with these features, these inherent inbuilt mathematics of the Ganita Sutras, that the formulation Ekadhikain, which is a composition as per the TCV values accepted by the individual letters of Devanagari Varnamala as per the Maheshwara Sutras, and this formulation at the next phase and stage will permit a transcendence through the vowels, through the dimensional frames, So we will be having a transcendence within the domain along the dimensional frames, and then this formulation will lead us to value 284, which is going to be one more than 283. As such, the formulation ekadikane itself is giving us a mathematics which at the stage of a transcendence will provide us the second fold of the mathematics, inner fold of the mathematics. This inner fold of the mathematics as of value 284 is parallel to the total value of the gaps of all the 18 chapters shlokas of Srimad Bhagwad Gita, which comes to be 284. One may have a pause here and take note that the Vedic systems have been of the format of the mathematics of the Ganita Sutras. This mathematics of the Ganita Sutras as such is of continuously unfolding process, and the second fold of the mathematics domain of Ganita Sutras will take us to the gaps to be filled. Therefore, we have to go back to our solar universe is Surya, Sun, and we know Sun is having two wives, Sanjya and Chaya. It is here where the reflection, operation, object and a shadow are to be simultaneously worked out, to be simultaneously chased as complementary and supplementary of each other. Therefore, our conventional method of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division as the foundational arithmetic operations as such are to be supplemented by the operations of reflection, pairing, orientations, pair of orientations. So the setup of the organization of a line as such is to be approached for its both orientations. It is this shift from the single orientation setup to a pair of orientation setup would mean that we have to transit from the linear order 3 space to a spatial order 4 space. Let us have a pause here and let us be face to face with these inherent foundational features of the Vedic systems which are at work as a mathematics for transforming the mathematics itself as a speaking language. Therefore, the sadhakas fulfilled with the intensity of virtue have to be first reach from Sthapatya miring rod to the mathematics of the Ganita Sutras, and with the help of mathematics of the Ganita Sutras, Sthapatya miring rod is to take to the settlement of the Devanagari alphabet, and with the settlement of the Devanagari alphabet, we have to reach at the settlement of the Maheshwara Sutras, and then in terms of the values of the Maheshwara Sutras as the inner fold values, we have to reach back the inner fold mathematical domain of Ganita Sutras, and this inner fold mathematical domain of Ganita Sutras will bring us face to face with the gaps bridging mathematics, gaps bridging technology, which is to be ultimately worked out. For it, therefore, we have to sequentially begin with the Devanagari alphabet, and for it, the first step in after laying this foundation is to reach at the script. So script form of these vowels is to be chased along the format of hypercube of 4. Hypercube 4 we know is a 4 space body of the domain boundary ratio a raised to power 4 is equal to 8 b raised to power 3. Now this value setup of 8 as such will permit us to have a split for the external solid boundary as of the 4 solids constituting half boundary and remaining 4 solids constituting the second half of this boundary. Now this also can be taken it as that when we are having 8 parts, 8 components as 4 plus 4 components, then we will be starting with the organization as 0 to 4 and as 0 to minus 4. Therefore, from the middle, we'll be having the pair of orientations, and this pair of orientations is going to be of 4 steps on either side with the positive orientation and negative orientation, starting with the common middle point as 0 plus 0 is equal to 0 into 0 is equal to minus 0 into minus 0, and 0 is the dimension of 2 space, which also gives us 2 plus 2 is equal to 2 multiplied by 2 is equal to minus 2 multiplied by minus 2, and as such it is here that we have to be face to face with the script form of the Devanagari alphabet letters, and this script form of the Devanagari alphabet letters will bring us face to face with the creative format of the Devanagari alphabet, and creative format would mean 4 space, which in the role of a dimension will take us to 6 space, means to the entire domain of our solar universe. That is why this is called a Devanagari, because this alphabet, this organization, this format, as it is of the potentialities and features of the creative order of the self-referral domain of a 6 space of the Devas. Now, further we know that Devanagari alphabet format as such is taking us to the Maheshwara Sutras, which means from 4 space format we'll be reaching at a 5 space. That means from the creative manifestations we will be reaching at the transcendence. One may have a pause here and take note that when we will be associating the TCB values with the individual letters, then we will be reaching at a reach from 4 space to a 5 space, and the 5 space content as a transcendental content will re-manifest itself, and it is this re-manifestation which is going to be the Maheshwara Sutras, and therefore the manifested fourfold creations of format and transcendence therefrom are the foundational features in terms of which the content, which is of Panch Mahabhut, which is of 5 folds, is being carried and is being transited and transformed sequentially within our solar universe, which takes and bridges the gap between the earth and the sun. Therefore, reaching from the orb of the earth to orb of the sun, and from orb of the sun to orb of the earth, is going to be a twofold chase of 6 steps on one side, making it that we will be reaching at a raised to power 6 to 12 b raised to power 5. Therefore, reaching from domain to its boundary. So at the boundary of our solar universe, at the transcendental boundary of our solar universe, is the ultimate format, and this format is the format of a Sthapatya ring rod presided by Lord Vishnu, with the Maya presided by Lord Brahma, and the format is the format for the transcendental carriers. The format of the Sthapatya ring rod is the format of the transcendental carriers, and it is this format which is being availed for transformation of the mathematics as a speaking language. Now, as ultimately it is the format of a Sthapatya miring rod, therefore this transition and transformation for the mathematics as a speaking language becomes a mathematics of a speaking language of a human articulated alphabet. Human articulated alphabet would mean that the existence phenomenon within human frame. And we know human frame is of a Shad Chakras format. This Shad Chakras format is of external characteristics 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12, which is parallel to the boundaries of hypercubes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Therefore, this human format as per the Shad Chakras is taking us to a boundary. So we reach at the transcendental boundary. Therefore, the format of the Sthapatya miring rod for the transcendental carriers is going to be parallel to the existence phenomenon within the human frame. And from within the human frame, we will be having a nod, simply translated as sound, of TC value 17, which is equal to the TC value of Shabd, a word, the humanly articulated words, which are the features of a space sustained by a space. All these features are very large in number. These are as large as are the features of the Sthapatya miring rod. Therefore, the sadhakas fulfilled with intensity of urge to be parallel to the mathematics as a speaking language along the content carriers formats shall sit comfortably and to sequentially chase, as it is a chase of infinite steps. Not only of infinite steps, infinite infinities domain is there. Because infinite infinities domain is to be worked out, therefore it is to be worked out at the transcendental origin of a creator's space, which would mean at the transcendental domain, which is enveloped within a creative boundary, means the fourth space. All these interconnected steps are formatted in such a way that these unfold of their own along the format of a Sthapatya miring rod, along the format of a human frame of a Shad Chakras format, along the format of a Panchamahabhut. Therefore, if we pick up a thread of this format in reference to human frame, or in reference to Panchamahabhut, or in reference to the existence phenomenon within rays of the sun, then simultaneously we can reach at the existence phenomenon other parallel setups. Therefore, sadhakas shall begin with the existence phenomenon within their own body, and once one will be face to face with the existence within one's own body, then it will be very easy to go parallelly to the existence phenomenon within the rays of the sun or along the Sthapatya miring rod, maybe within frames or without frames, and the entire solar universe will get unified as a system of the order of the mathematics as a speaking language of the Devanagari alphabet format. Thank you very much.